What's up, everyone? It's Phoenix here, bringing you guys another reaction. This time it is Brightburn, the extended trailer. So basically, I have heard about this trailer or this movie or whatever it is. So basically, the concept of the movie is if Superman landed in Kansas, in a pod, but was evil, what would have happened then? And I find this a little bit fascinating because, when, Clark or Kal-El, landed in Kansas, he was a good person for the most part. He was raised to be a good person. His family had, good values. But what happens when that person who lands from that pod isn't so good and isn't like Superman, or doesn't have that like Boy Scout nature? And what happens when he is the only hero of sorts, or super person of sorts? So let's take a look at this trailer, see what it's all about, and we'll talk from there. James Gunn.
Who am I? You are a gift. We believe that you came here for a reason. I know it's been difficult for you lately, that you feel different from other kids.
Touch the floor, Brian!
You are different.
Caitlin, get my hand up.
He's a creep.
Help him up.
What are you doing? I want him in handcuffs and I want him gone. Do you even know who his real mother is?
I'm his real mother.
Let's go.
Maybe there is something wrong with Brandon.
I will never turn against our son.
He's not my son.
Hey, who's messing with me?
Oh, there it is.
Something wrong?
Boy around by chance?
You're one of the only people in the world that knows how special I am.
There are believed to be no survivors among the 268 passengers
Wow.
on board.
No, no, no!
Whatever you've done, I know there is good inside you.
Tori! You're safe now. We got
I want to do good, Mom. I do.
Interesting. Let's watch it. Oh, it's not done. Wait, is this the same trailer?
Who am I? You are a gift. I know it's been difficult for you lately, that you feel different from other kids.
Yeah, I think this is just the same trailer. It's okay. I can watch it again. I was gonna do it anyways.
After your dad and I got married, we prayed for a baby for so long.
Huh.
You are special. We believe that you came here for a reason. He was in the barn.
Did he find it?
No. It was like he was drawn to it.
He may look like us. He's not like us.
There it is. Wow. An interesting concept. The concept is very, very interesting. The idea behind it isn't necessarily an original idea. I think it comes from, it's probably inspired by some of the Ellsworth stories, like Red Sun, the idea of what happens if Superman were to land somewhere else, like Kasnia or Russia or Germany, or the idea of like what would happen if this pod had landed anywhere else. But this is kind of taking that and twisting and like, well, yeah, he can still land on Kansas, but what happens if he's evil? And I think that is a very interesting thing to look at, what would happen if, this boy actually came from some sort of evil planet and not necessarily Krypton, or not necessarily a good Krypton. Maybe he was from, General Zod, and he's more like taking over the planet than really saving it, because Jor-El and Lara sent him over to be a kind of savior, like that was his destiny. But now, clearly he wasn't sent over to do that, and clearly there were issues behind this. Now that woman has been in other like horror movies. I recognize her. And I think taking this horror approach is kind of fascinating, because James Gunn is part of Warner Brothers now. He's directing Suicide Squad 2, and he's been working with Warner Brothers, and so I think it makes sense for him to go about and do this sort of project that is Superman related. Now this was before, I think this was done before everything went down, but obviously, James Gunn is not exclusive, doesn't have to be exclusive to a certain company, because it's all ultimately up to him. But this concept is very, very interesting. Although James Gunn doesn't really do horror movies as far as I'm aware. I would kind of expect this from more like James Wan or something. I'm not really sure. Let me see. Let me look up at his IMDb. Let's see. Has James Gunn done horror movies before? Because this is basically a horror movie. Let me see. So, for the most part, not really. Oh my god, he directed Scooby-Doo? I didn't know that. The movie? The live-action movie? Interesting. So basically, no. He hasn't really done a horror movie before. So this is kind of interesting. This is a little bit new for him. It's a new style for him. It's a new way of telling it, because Brightburn is essentially a horror movie. That it's just Superman is, or Kal-El is that horror aspect of it, which is kind of an interesting thing. And Swamp Thing is coming, and they're doing it where Swamp Thing is kind of a horror creature as well. So it's kind of fascinating how they're turning these basically heroes, anti-heroes into horror aspects. And there's rumors of them doing a movie on the Trench. And I think it's fairly interesting and intriguing. I think it could actually work, depending on what they do with it. Because James Wan is very what's his name? The guy who took the place of let me see. What was his name? Walter something. Walter something. Walter Hamada, that's who I was thinking of. Walter Hamada is those two are very, very known for their horror genre, directing it and making it happen, as well as other horror aspects. And so I think bringing this horror genre to the comics is very interesting. It could really work to be this thing, sort of a trend almost, because DC especially has more room for horror stuff, because there's more characters that kind of go with that darker theme. With not all of them. I wouldn't want to see all of them turn like horror creatures or whatever, but there are definitely characters that could be used for that horror aspect. The Joker, having a more darker and gritty story being told, or like the Trench, or like an evil Superman. There's always that idea that what if Superman was bad? What would happen? How would it happen? Was it Lois being killed off, or was it someone else or something else that turned him evil? Or maybe he was evil from the beginning. All these different aspects. Maybe he landed somewhere else. Maybe he landed on Apocalypse. There's always these stories that are Elseworld-esque stories, not necessarily Elseworld from that line, but like an Elseworld type story. And it's always interesting, especially if it's not a part of canon, but it's just another story being told. And that's where DC really strives, is that it has a lot of directions you can go, a lot of stories you can tell, without ruining the continuity. There are ways of telling it where it makes sense, or just doing an Elseworld story, doing an individual story like this one. And it is definitely quite interesting to kind of see this being done. And I'm thinking of like other people this could be done with. in a way, you can do a sort of horror aspect for Batman and his rogues, or, something along those lines. And it is definitely very interesting that people are taking this approach. Like, it's different from Zack Snyder, because it's not only making it darker, but it's making it a different genre, which is very interesting. Not all of the movies are like that either. We have, Shazam being this, just being a fun movie, more of a comedy drama than an action, or, and then now we have more of a horror aspect to it. Now, this is obviously not a part of the DCEU. It's a different story. It's not attached to the DC, but it is inspired from the DC universe, and that's like something that can be done to help build this sort of thing. And I do think it is very interesting. I'm probably going to see it too. It looks really good. Anyways, so that's it. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. And peace out, guys. It's been a blast.